Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. No, it's not April Fool's Day. That was yesterday. This is real. This is not a prank. There's actually a new episode. I am Illeagle 86, as always, joined by my good friends Techtic and Nerdbomber.
Hello, hello.
We're recording this on March 31st, so this is April Fool's Day Eve. So we don't know what the big pranks are going to be tomorrow. We don't know what's going to be pulled on social media. We don't know what Google's going to do. So don't ask us.
Look, as a kid, I was convinced that I would be facing a lot more toilets that were saran wrapped as an adult. I don't know why I thought that would be a common occurrence on April Fools, but I've literally never ran into that in my life.
The one that always sticks in my head, soap under the doorknob. Have you ever experienced this?
Why under the doorknob?
So you can't see it. But then once you touch it, you spin, when you go to turn a doorknob.
Okay.
And then you can't turn it. It's just all slippery. And it's a great goof. You can't go anywhere. Mission accomplished.
So are we all committing to pranks come April Fools?
No, I won't be doing any pranks. I don't believe in that. Life's hard enough. That's kind of my view of April Fool's pranks. If you want to prank me, go for it. I'll react in some way. I'm not going to get angry at you. I'm not a curmudgeon, but I don't live my life to pull pranks. And is that me being a downer? Are you planning on pulling a bunch of pranks tomorrow? Am I going to get pranked by you tomorrow?
I don't do pranks.
Wink.
Yeah, it's over. We're adults. Fun is canceled.
But also now I kind of hate that, and I want to come up with a prank to prank you guys tomorrow.
Wink.
Have you guys ever pulled a prank? Ever?
Well, I'm sure I have. For April Fools specifically, probably not, but it's certainly possible. I have to soapbox here for a second though, because I'm going to put another channel on blast. It's not another another podcast, and it's a YouTube channel that's so famous that they're not going to give two poops what I think, and they shouldn't. Are you guys familiar with Rhett and Link?
Oh,
Good Mythical Morning. Every year they do an April Fool's video. And because they're currently on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday recording schedule, today was their April Fool's video. And I'm not even going to get into what it was. It was a really stupid prank. They're all really stupid pranks. Rhett and Link, you guys do stupid pranks. But it annoys me now, and this is a specific case, but Good Mythical Morning is ostensibly a daily or every other day show that I look forward to watching. And when they just waste an episode with some bullcrap that's a dumb bit that I don't care about, I get really angry.
But all of their shows are dumb bits that are kind of funny.
So are you saying that people should get angry at our dumb bits for 15 minutes every time?
I want you to scream at my dumb bits.
It's very different. I guess I'll explain it now because you're taking me down this road. They're big into eating stuff on their channel, which is good. It's great content. And they do this segment that's called Gut Check, where they basically eat different flavors of something and rank them on a scale of 1 to 100. And then at the end, they get to see which one they thought was the best. So they did Girl Scout cookies at one point. They did every flavor of Pop-Tarts. They did every flavor of Doritos, stuff like that. Today, they said, we're going to do a gut check with every flavor of McNuggets. So it's just, 20 minutes of, and I didn't watch it. I actually fast forwarded to the end to make sure they weren't going to do anything serious. And it was just all one big long dumb bit. And it was. They ate 40 McNuggets that were all the same thing, because obviously a McNugget's a McNugget, and they rank them different numbers. And that's a waste of my time. It's a waste of their time. And I guess I am a curmudgeon, because I really annoyed
Not even different dipping sauces?
No, because it was a bit. It was a 20-minute long bit. We don't. We do.
You know what they should have done that would have taken care of both April Fools and the gut check? Those funny flavored jelly beans, because the gross flavors are in itself a prank, and then they can rank them accordingly.
Absolutely not. We were at a hockey game with a bunch of friends and friends' family.
I'm not saying for you and me. I'm saying for Rhett and Link.
But they were eating, the children had the every flavor beans, and they kept getting the fart ones. And then they were just sitting there saying, oh, now my mouth tastes bad. And I don't know. That's not worth it to me.
But it's worth it to watch it.
Is it though?
Yeah.
I don't even and I'm, getting very personal here, but you know how Jelly Belly, you can go just get a big giant bag of of jelly beans. I called them belly beans twice in a row. Don't change it.
Belly.
You know how you can go get a big giant bag of Jelly Belly jelly beans. I don't even want that because some of the flavors I think are nasty. Jelly Belly makes this thing called Kids Mix, which is basically, there's no nasty flavors. There's no kiwi. It's just very kid-friendly flavors. And that's what I'm about. Just give me that basic bitch jelly bean. All right. So that's where I'm at with being pranked. I'm so into routine and just safety in all aspects of life that, again, if you prank me, I'm not going to be upset at you, but I'm also not going to enjoy it. And I'm not going to enjoy pranking other people as well.
Kids get all the best food options.
They really do. What about us big boys, Where's our good options? This episode, not a prank. There's going to be no pranks in it, so you don't need to worry too much about that.
Or maybe
this
is
the Nintendo's... No, maybe, yeah. It's a long con. This is one of our many Nintendo Direct episodes. There's actually going to be a Nintendo Direct the day of this recording, too. There's the Nintendo Switch 2 Nintendo Direct is coming on April 2nd. Obviously, because of our recording schedule, we're going to do that next week. We're going to go through that one. I am committing us here, guys. Sorry about that. I didn't give you the heads up, but I do think we should probably talk about it. We're going to be talking about all the Switch 1 Nintendo Direct content that came to us March 27th, so that was last week. Of course, the big headline item in there, Metroid Prime 4, kind of demanded that, I demanded that we were going to talk about this. I think we probably would have anyways, but it's a big deal for me, so we'll get into that. But first, I kind of want to we have one other topic I want to just kind of get out of the way here because I think we have some thoughts about it. So Severance just ended. We're not going to talk about Severance Season 2 ending, what the finale was. I actually, are you guys fully caught up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so am I. We're not going to get into the spoileriness of it all, but I don't think Apple TV is the only one of these, but it did recently come out in a news article that Apple is losing over $1 billion a year on their streaming service. And that's the news. Like that, it's a very simple one-liner piece of news, but I thought we should unpack that because, Apple TV in particular is a streaming service that, as you can see from shows like Ted Lasso and Severance and, Shrinking, I think we both watched Silo, or is that just me? I don't know. Either way, I have not watched season 2 of that show. I believe season 2 is out. I haven't watched it, but it's a very high production value streaming service. They get a lot of great actors to come and do great things for them. They very notably don't advertise much or spend a lot of money on advertising. So I guess it kind of cuts both ways. I think some people would say that's why they're losing money because their viewership isn't high enough because they, don't advertise enough. But I think it's also worth digging a little bit more into the economics of streaming services because I've recently watched some videos about this and, I think a lot of people think of television content or movies as these things that, if you market them, people will buy tickets for them or they will sit down in front of their television and watch them and they'll get ad revenue and blah, blah, blah. You'll make your money back. I think with Netflix and Apple TV Plus and, Hulu, all the streaming services, I think if you were to look at most of their budgets and bottom lines right now, they would all be losing money. I don't quote me on that. I don't know if that's strictly true, but I believe Netflix has been losing money for years because it's more treated like a tech company that has stock valuation and it doesn't actually, it's hard to, they get subscription money obviously, but they lose money constantly. So I want to just kind of dig into that. Techtic, it sounds like you were about to take the reins.
Yeah, so what's interesting about this is what made Apple famous was never their streaming content, it was their tech. And the streaming content became a benefit of, say, buying the latest and greatest iPhone or whatever. You get, this many months subscription. And so I wonder if their plan was always just to lose money to just sell more tech. And this is just, it is what it is. Or if they've bit off more than they can chew as far as their content budget.
I feel like this is something, and we've talked about this too with Microsoft and their Xbox division when it loses money. They're such a big company that if they lose money on this one thing, getting people in the ecosystem is worth enough to them that they don't care. And I think they kind of probably went into streaming. They were later to the game than most of the other streaming services. Netflix and Hulu and I think Peacock were all around maybe just before Apple TV launched. Apple TV was one of the last ones to join the fray. And so I think they knew that it wasn't going to be a profitable venture. And especially since they put so much budget into their shows, you look at the shows that they have and maybe Shrinking, wide or where they don't have a big special effects budget, they have a giant cast budget. The cast salary, Harrison Ford cannot be cheap. I'm sorry. Harrison Ford is not cheap. They have so many sci-fi shows that require a lot of special effects, and those even have high budget actors. I don't think they necessarily care about it being profitable.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because you talk about ecosystems and like Disney Plus was another streaming service that was super late to the game, but they were in a very different situation, right? They basically slurped back all their content that was being, hosted on other streaming services and said, this is all ours now. If you want Star Wars, if you want Marvel, you have to come here. It was about the IP, right? Apple TV is starting from the ground. They're going from the ground up. They're starting from square one. It doesn't really apply to them. And, I do think it's interesting that you see, I mentioned Netflix as constantly losing money. I think they still are losing money, but you have seen them very demonstrably, in particular in recent years, pivot to much cheaper to make content, namely reality shows like The Circle and Love is Blind. These shows can be churned out with very low expense. And I would imagine that is a very economically driven pivot in terms of the content that they're producing. They still make movies, they still make shows, but it seems to be less on the forefront of what they're doing. Apple TV Plus, it's the opposite. It seems like they just don't care that they're losing money. Like, and Techtic, to your point, I do think that it's not like they're not aware of it. I think it's something they were planning for. They knew they were going to lose money on it. They're okay with losing money on it. It may be to drive people towards the Apple ecosystem. I just have a hard time seeing how that actually benefits them. If they cared about making money, they would probably stop churning out such high dollar content.
Well, you
maybe they see that
something
as
interesting.
Their foothold.
They're turning out high dollar content, but they're not building up any IPs that can be marketed in any other way.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think Ted Lasso is a perfect example of how that was able to be leveraged far and wide. Like, I saw a ton of people at the height of Ted Lasso popularity wearing
mustaches.
No, AFC Richmond jerseys. Like, their merch was flying off the shelves. I don't know. Like, I also almost wonder if it's just like a passion project for them.
Yeah, it's almost like they just want to be in the game and they see it as something that viable tech companies do. I don't know. It's hard to fathom. I think it also, it's very interesting, streaming television and streaming movies. I would say it's probably at this point how the average American, at least of our generation, is consuming most media, right? Like, even shows that are ostensibly on cable television, shows that are on HBO, I'm watching them through Max, right? It's so interesting to see through the lens of these streaming services how these shows have changed. We used to, back in the 2000s and the mid to late 90s and long before that, like, there used to be a television show like ER or The West Wing or Lost, even back like in the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s, like The Office. All these shows were on TV. They were on at a specific time, at a specific day of the week. They had 2 seasons per year, and each season was typically 20 plus episodes. They were really turning out content, and they were, in most cases, there are exceptions certainly, like, The Office had Steve Carell, but it was before he blew up. ER had George Clooney. It was before he blew up. They weren't relying on big budget talent. They were, they had decent production value, but they weren't blowing the budget on special effects. They were telling more narratively driven stories, right? And looking at, streaming services like Apple TV Plus or Netflix or any of them, looking at shows like Stranger Things and Severance, who have these multi-year gaps between seasons, and the seasons are only 10 episodes each. Like, yeah, each episode is like an individual movie, but we've talked about this before on this show. Like, if you're going to ask me which one I want, I absolutely want the 90s back. So, I want Lost, I want ER, I want that stuff back, because it was so much more, there was so much more cultural cachet associated with it. And, shows recently that have done that, I'm mainly talking about HBO shows like White Lotus and, of course, Game of Thrones. Like, they benefited so much from that. I can't believe that shows aren't trying to stick to that model more, and streaming services aren't trying to stick to that model more. Severance kind of does.
And that's what's kind of interesting, right? Apple TV sticks to that mantra, we'll call it. But the problem is it's another streaming service. So what I'm interested in, if they're losing money on the streaming service, why not license out their content? They're seeing how well it's received, and then they can get that cash back by licensing, Severance.
Licensing to who?
Yeah.
Ted Lasso
so
to
Netflix,
like, to
Netflix?
stream their shows. So they're basically publishing or a producing house.
But I think
they can get extra revenue in.
Then. So if you're going to lose money on making the content anyway, because you're spending big bucks, like we were kind of talking about this pre-show, but sometimes it feels like it's really difficult to find a TV show that you're really hooked on that's like good and interesting to watch because there's so much spread across so many services. But I will tell you, like I might go on Netflix and I don't know who produced the show, but I might struggle to find something amidst all of the other drivel that's on Netflix. Like, let's be real. For every solid show on Netflix, there's like 3 or 4 that's just kind of like meh. I know if I go on Apple TV Plus and I pick a show, it's
banger.
It's a banger. And they don't advertise themselves enough. I think they let shows like Severance and Ted Lasso kind of speak for themselves and draw people in that way. And they do.
Yeah.
But I know if I'm going to Apple TV Plus, whatever I'm picking is going to be a banger. So if they license it out, they lose that a little bit.
Well, no, because they could still release their bangers, but it's like you're behind the cultural zeitgeist if you watch in the other areas because they'll be delayed a season or whatever.
Right. What it really is a way to draw people in to make them subscribe to Apple TV Plus if they watch something on Netflix a year later and say, oh, wow, this is actually really good. You know, I don't see streaming services shaking hands in that way, at least in the near future. I think it's more likely that you would see Apple TV Plus license their shows out to cable networks. You know, what if Severance was on TNT and someone could watch it a year later and then say, oh, I want to get an Apple TV Plus subscription so when the next season comes around. Like, I think that's a lot more likely, but, you know, the channels are all still controlled by media giants, so it's still probably, you know, net very unlikely. I just, you know, I don't know whether the problem is the vast abundance of options across different services or if it's that our demand for high production value in a show has just gotten too high. I don't know what the problem is, but I do think that if you were to ask even any fan of Severance, which is a great show, we all watched the second season, it was great. Like, no one wanted to wait 3 years. No one wants to wait another 2 years or even another year.
They did say
I would take lower production value for that.
That time gap is going to get lower because, like, part of that, the first season, I think, got paused halfway through filming because of the writer's strike. And so, like, I think they finished off the last couple of episodes, but then they had time. That gap made them, like, stop and kind of rethink the direction of the show a little bit. And so that added a couple years of churn. I don't know. I'm hoping, like, they said it's not going to take as long, but I get what you're saying. Less production value, faster and more.
Predating the writer's strike, you know, Stranger Things has been doing this for a decade now, where they will put a season out. You'll completely forget the show exists for 2 years, and then it'll come back again. Like, these shows are very lucky that they're so well written. And let me be clear, I'm not saying well produced. I'm saying well written because I think the stories are what bring people back. And I think you can tell compelling stories if you structure a writer's room correctly, if you have a good premise, if you have the backing of, I don't know, a major TV network or a major streaming service to say, hey, we're going to do 2 seasons this year. And they don't necessarily have to be 24 episodes long, but like, we want to give people stuff that they can count on that's consistent. And that's, again, I think people go back to shows like Parks and Rec and The Office, like, not just because they're bingeable and because the seasons are all out now on streaming, but because there was a comfort in that. I can speak to that for The Office specifically. Like, you looked forward to it every week it delivered. And we just don't have that anymore. Like, I can't think of a show that has that. You know, CBS and ABC, all these networks, they're still turning out, you know, multicam sitcoms, and, you know, people are watching them. Otherwise, the networks wouldn't put them on. But I just, you know, there is nothing good happening on TV right now. And I think the streaming services have a monopoly on high-grade content, but they're turning it out too slowly, and clearly they're losing a boatload of money doing so. So I would think something would have to change here at some point, but I don't really know when that point is. So look at that. News accomplished. Apple TV is losing over $1 billion a year. Let us know what you think of Apple TV, streaming services, the streaming ecosystem, what you think needs to change, or if nothing needs to change. Hit us up on Blue Sky, @OW, illeagle86.bsky.social. That's me. We have @OW, nerdbomber.bsky.social, @techtic.bsky.social, and our main show account @onlinewarriors.bsky.social. Hit us up there. Let's have a conversation. And now we're going to cut the Nintendo Direct across a break. So this was a 30-minute Direct. We'll try and do half and half here with a break in between. I am not going to go in order, if only because the order kind of confused me a little bit with this Nintendo Direct. I feel like usually they save the Big Daddy game for the end. In this case, that almost certainly would have been Metroid Prime 4, I would think. That's not just me Metroid fanboying. I legitimately think it was the biggest thing they announced. But they put it kind of like right in the middle, which I thought was interesting. So we're going to dance around here. I'm going to try and hit what I think are the highest intensity, biggest deal things first, and we'll kind of go down the list from there. Maybe doing a little smorgasbord of like, hey, what did you see the first few seconds of that you liked right towards the end? I have to start with Metroid Prime 4, obviously. We had seen, I think, minimal footage before this. This was certainly the closest look we had seen of the game to this point. We learned the name of the planet. I believe it was Planet Vuros.
Yep. We
of course saw Samus Aran. The high points here. I mean, coming from me, this is meaningless. Obviously, I'm going to play this game. I'm going to play the crap out of this game. I'm going to day one buy this game. I'm probably going to buy whatever special edition they furnish for this game, right? The high point here is really the psychic abilities.
Oof.
Because
that's the second high point.
No, I think I agree with you, Illeagle. I think the psychic abilities are the high point.
The color red. Whew.
Oh, well, yeah, sure. The suit reveal at the end is great. I even like all the purple. I think that's great too. But from a gameplay perspective, the psychic abilities are going to allow them to open the throttle up on the combat, on the puzzle solving in various ways. What I can say as... I feel like I'm a resident Metroid Prime expert in particular. Maybe not a Metroid expert, but a Metroid Prime expert. I think it's a good and bad thing. I think for the puzzle solving, I think that's going to be great. I think the whole direct your beam shot thing, I don't want to say it's gimmicky, but I'm definitely not interested.
Did it appear like time slowed down, or was it just like is it just a very slow thing?
Yeah, it was time slow-mo. It did feel like it would be something you do a couple times, but then it would get kind of tedious because that would interrupt the flow of the gameplay.
A lot of the battles, you're moving, you're hustling. And
Are
if
you
strafing? It's all strafing.
I did not play any of the Metroid Prime games, so I actually had this question written down for you guys. I don't know if this is just me getting used to like the super high speeds of Halo and Call of Duty and first-person shooters now, but does the gunplay look a little slow here, or is that just me?
It looked slow. I thought it looked slow.
It's slower than the modern day FPS. It was never as fast as that. It never will be as fast as that. But it does, the combat style of Metroid Prime has, and always will, I suspect, incentivize movement. In particular, incentivize lateral movement, strafing, jumping while shooting. You know, there's only so fast your arm cannon can fire. There's only so fast you can turn around. I'm not even sure there have been look sensitivity modifications available in the original Metroid Prime games. I think it's just you look as fast as you look. The slowness of it doesn't bother me. It's deliberate. You can call it slow if you like. I can't really fault
I think they were slowing
opinion.
it down to show things because, like I said, it did seem sluggish to me. I agree with you, Nerdbomber, but that can't be all. I think it was just slow. It just happened to be slow scenes. It was a puzzle solving, and then there was like 3 basic enemies lined up and like basically shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah, I mean, my hope for this obviously is that it just runs it back. Like, it's nice that they're adding new things. I think in particular with when this game is coming out, which they did say it's coming out this year sometime. They didn't get any more specific than that. We've been away from this franchise for so long, and we did get the remaster last year, but like, I think at this point, people who are fans of this franchise just want more Metroid Prime. Adding psychic abilities is nice, but they really just need to retain or amplify the core experience, and their fans are going to be happy. They're in a very good position here. We waited a long time for it. I think that for all intents and purposes, and you know, as far as I could see, it looks like it's going to be exactly what I want it to be, and I absolutely cannot wait to play it. Techtic, I want to ask you, and this is something I had written down. You have, correct me if I'm wrong, tried Metroid Prime, but you've never finished any of the games. Is that a correct assessment?
I love the side scroller in Metroid. I can just sink hours into those. I struggle with Metroid Prime, and I liked it a lot better as a child, and I realized why I stopped playing it again as an adult is because you can't play it on the handheld. You have to dock it.
Yeah, you have to dock it. That is definitely true, as we both have, I think, the remaster. Like, it plays really great in the dock. You can play it handheld, but it's not ideal. Metroid Prime as a series, you know, there's video game series that I've talked about a lot on this show as being huge fans of, you know, Last of Us, Dead Space. Anyone who listens to this show regularly knows what my favorite game franchises are because I make every attempt to list them. Metroid Prime is easily the most zen of those franchises that I can just fall into, and it's so comforting to me. So watching this trailer was therapy for me. I'm pleased to report, because we all need a little therapy sometimes. But like I said, no firm release date. There's going to be lore, there's going to be scanning, there's going to be shooting. It's going to have everything you want. So whenever it comes out, I'm going to be buying it immediately. I'll be pre-ordering it as soon as I can. Nintendo, listen up. Take my money. There's never been more of a take my money situation for me than right now.
It's a big deal. You don't pre-order. You're not usually a pre-order
I don't
guy.
Pre-order. I don't remember the last time I pre-ordered a game, but this
I
will
did.
certainly
It was
be
Dread,
the time
and I got
that
a mug that I still use.
I probably should have pre-ordered Dread, because Dread, by the way, was amazing. If you're listening to this, you haven't played Metroid Dread, you should go play it right now. The next bit, I'm just kind of going to try and go order of biggest to smallest announcements. Pokemon Legends ZA felt like the other big franchise that got a peek here. Again, as the resident non-Pokemoner, I'm a little bit more out on this one, but it looked fun. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot about this game already, but I think the biggest news from, this showcase, this Nintendo Direct, was the emphasis on night and day. So they basically announced that during the daytime, there's all the wild zones, which, Techtic and I have some feelings on. I don't think either of us love that. We prefer like the open world style now that we've been introduced to that, and not having like gated areas for Pokemon to exist in. But at nighttime, those areas will turn into battle arenas, and it's kind of going to be like a fighting game where you start at the lowest tier, or a good callback to Illeagle's favorite, Need for Speed Most Wanted. You start at the bottom of the rung and you got to work your way up. And that's very interesting to me. I need to know if the time in the game is going to be based on, like an internal clock, or if it's going to be based on like real time, because I feel like that could screw me up. Because
that's a really good point. I forgot about that. I used to hate the time stuff. If
it's like you can only catch Pokemon during the day and I'm primarily playing this at night, I'm going to be so mad. That's not going to be a fun time for me, because life's busy. I'm an old person.
Yeah, well, I'm older than you, so yeah, you're preaching to the choir here. I did actually make the Blacklist comparison that you made. You know me too well. The ZA thing does seem very cool. Rooftop dancing seems really cool, and yeah, the battle zones seem pretty cool. Again, I don't really have a horse in the Pokemon race, but
I was a little disappointed to see that there was. Besides that, there was no real like hints on some new mega evolutions. Nothing to really build the hype. In my opinion, that was what I thought was the major letdown, and maybe they're just holding off until April 2nd. But like, hype me, make me get me jazzed,
I mean, I think that the fact that there are mega evolutions that they announced prior, like I think that's as much hype. Like I don't think they want to spoil who's going to be in this game.
Yeah, there's only so much hype that Pokemon as a franchise needs to build for any given game now, right? I totally get where you're coming from, but from my perspective, this trailer did everything it was supposed to do and that it needed to do. And this one's coming in late 2025. So again, no specific date, but be on the lookout for that. I feel like the two non-game things felt like bigger things to me, so we'll talk about those and then we'll hop into the break. Virtual game carts. So this is basically a way to share digitally purchased games from the eShop across Switch and Switch 2. You can share games amongst your Nintendo family, so you can't just give them to anybody. This felt like them making a very big deal over something that they should have been able to provide much sooner. I'm certainly glad that it's coming about now. And of course, it makes sense for them to put it out now, right before the Switch 2 comes, so you can transfer to a new system. That's probably just them directly addressing that concern with a bunch of folks. But it did feel like, hey, we have this new feature that always should have existed. So,
well, it's just very weird
that in mind,
when you compare it to like PlayStation and Xbox. Once something is on your account, and I know with Nintendo, technically you can download it and play it wherever your account is on any tertiary console, but it's like difficult and your save games don't transfer. And I feel like that's just something that's been available on other consoles and platforms for a while now. So it's a little disappointing that they're marketing it as this like even still somewhat limited thing. It is cool though that you can share games, because I don't think that's something that, is explicitly condoned.
You could transfer your data to a new console now, no problem. It's really just the sharing that's the key announcement. And like,
yeah.
So
But
like
again,
the
you're-
family
you're-
console is what I think. So if I buy a game digitally, if you're not on my account, if you are not my account, rather, you're not playing it. And that, in my opinion, is a good thing, is now it allows it to be accessible. But I see what you're saying, Nerdbomber, is things like Game Pass, where you have a home console and everyone can just play it and there's not this weird rental shenanigans timeout. That seems goofy.
Yeah, I wanted to mention the timeout because that, again, I felt like, all right, you're going all these lengths and like, you're really going to put a 14-day counter on people. Like, think about some of these games. Like, people are going to want to play these for a while.
And most digital games are not like the big popular ones. At least for me.
Any game can be a digital game, right? Mm-hmm. Someone could buy Legend of Zelda digital, and then, like I said, they're going to be playing that for more than 2 weeks if they're completionists. So, like, it just feels a little silly to me to time box it like that.
You have to be physically present in order to share your game, which means, like, say you're going on vacation or something, or you're traveling.
No, it's just present the first time, just the first communication.
Not to lend a game. I think you have to be present to lend the game.
I believe that's correct. And I had this written down too because I am in a Nintendo Switch family with someone and they live across the country. So like I was watching this, I was like, okay, this is useless to me. Like if I wanted to share a game with him or if he wanted to share a game with me, well, we can't do it. And like until next time I'm down,
a new family.
It's limiting in that way too. And like again, I get why that restriction exists, but it felt like this big giant announcement. They were super excited to roll it out and it had these, had yellow caution tape all over it. I didn't really love that. In a similar vein, Nintendo Today. Do we need this?
I am not downloading another app for Nintendo News. I'm sorry. I'm not doing that. I will go on like
They're going big on the apps.
or Blue Sky, and as soon as something's announced on the app, it's going to be everywhere. I don't need an app for that.
Yeah, Nintendo Music was another app, and Nintendo's big in the apps right now, I guess. Nintendo Music was and is an app that's actually delivering something useful, right? It's delivering you video game music. That's good. I like that. This is pointless. Like, if there's a Nintendo Direct, first of all, they don't have, like, there was one last week, there's going to be one this week. That is a much higher cadence than is typical. They typically do them once every couple of months. You do not need an app to tell you, hey, there's another Nintendo Direct coming up in, a month from now. It's just not necessary. And the rest of the stuff that the app was saying that was promising is stuff that you could get by going to IGN or anywhere. If you want to know what's happening in the Nintendo world, there's about a dozen resources you could use. So I just don't understand why Nintendo is putting its resources towards rolling this app out. And again, it was something that they were like very excited to reveal. Like people were clamoring for it. And I just don't know that I haven't looked to see what the reaction to this was like, but like, I can't imagine it was glowing. Like, it's not a bad thing. It doesn't hurt anybody, but I just didn't really understand this because this was another thing that they like really teased and held till towards the end of the direct. And I was like, really, this is what you were building up to? It just felt strange to me.
This was a very much, again, this is why I think the big ones are going to be on the second, because a lot of this stuff felt let downy. Like a lot of them were like Game Boy remakes. It was what it felt like.
Well, I feel like this is we'll get
into those too.
This is the pending stuff for the Nintendo Switch 1, and I feel like April 2nd is going to be Nintendo Switch 2 and all of the launch titles. If they go into any software, who knows? It might just be hardware.
Yeah, so we'll take a short break now. We'll come back to talk through. I think we're just going to pick a sprinkling of the rest of these because there's a bunch, and spoiler alert, a lot of them felt exactly the same to me. So we'll get into those. Before we go to our break, though, it's that time again in the show where I shout out our fantastic Patreon producers, Mr. Lloyd Weldy, Mr. Stephen Keller. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support the show. Let us keep rolling out this content. Let us, talk about Nintendo Directs on the air. Hopefully you enjoy listening. If you want to be like Stephen and Lloyd, who get this shout out every week, you can become a Patreon producer. You can subscribe to our Patreon at the night level. That is the highest of our 3 levels of support. As night level subscribers, Stephen and Lloyd both receive this shout out every episode. They receive the occasional guest spot on the show. And of course, monthly access to our secret segment and our vlog. There is also a Squire level of support. That's our second highest level, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, and the page level, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. So you can head over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. Get the details there. Say hi to Steven, say hi to Lloyd, say hi to us, and consider giving back to this show that hopefully you are enjoying, or, maybe if you hate it, but you want to, pay into our Patreon, that'll be fine too. Thanks again to Steven and Lloyd. We'll be right back to talk more Nintendo Direct.
Hey, this is Ken M.
Padawan J.
Coach Duffy.
From the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour podcast. Every week, the ODPH is talking sports, movies, TV, comics, and more. It's always a parlay of topics on each episode. You can find the ODPH on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and wherever you find great podcasts, such as the one you're listening to right now. Don't forget to check out OchoDuroParlayHour.com, where you can find the links to all of the ODPH social media accounts, links to the bands whose music you hear each week on the show, hashtag 607 podcast info, and parlay points, our companion blog section of the show. Thanks for listening to the ODPH. Now get back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
All right, we are back to talk through the rest of the Nintendo Direct. I think we can jump into our little round robin. We'll go around and, Nerdbomber will see what you were digging, and we'll see what Techtic was digging. We'll see what I was digging, and we'll do that in a circle a couple times. So Nerdbomber, Chivalry is not dead. It's mortally wounded, but it's still alive. So over to you. What really rustled your jimmies here that we have not yet discussed?
All right, so I think one of the biggest ones was Witchbrook, which is basically Stardew Valley, but you're at a witch college. And honestly, it was giving me like Hogwarts Legacy vibes as well, because you're going to class, you're riding brooms, you're learning how to do magic, you're trying to graduate from like witch college. It's super cozy. There's,
You don't know which one?
What do you mean?
You don't know which college?
Witchbrook?
Witchbrook.
Yeah, you said you're trying to graduate from which college?
Oh, haha. I see what you did there.
Which brook is it?
It's not as funny. The bubbling brook.
It's not as funny the second time. Go on.
But yeah, I mean, this looks like it's very cozy, right up my alley in terms of
4-player co-op.
Yeah, there was 4-player co-op. You can play online co-op. You can ride brooms together. I know I said brooms, but like I'm very excited about being able to ride brooms.
And it was like cute pixely vibe too.
It's very, very cozy, and life simulator, crafting, all that jazz, talking to people, relationships, yada yada. So I'm excited for this. This one is coming out holiday 2025, so no exact release date yet, but man, I'm excited for this one. I feel like this would be a really good winter season play for me. Like I'm imagining myself cozied up on my Christmas tree with a fireplace going on my TV, listening to Christmas music, being a little witch at Witch College.
Yeah, so I agree. Riding a broom looks fun. I have no interest in growing a witch business or crafting any goods. Here's what I'll say. I think that I know a few people that are Stardew Valley fans. I know a few people who are into witch stuff, and they're the same people. I think the Venn diagram for those two things is not a circle, but it's very close to a circle. So I think this is going to do numbers. We're going to get into probably more of them. A lot of the games I felt like in this Nintendo Direct were, I guess you wouldn't call this a life sim game or anything like that, but they felt like there's a lot of games where you kind of do a lot of stuff like this.
Cozy gaming. A lot of cozy games.
Yeah, what I will say is that among those, because there had to be 5 or 6, this one did stand out to me as looking particularly enjoyable. It's just not a genre that I'm typically into, but cozy is a good way to describe it. It definitely has a distinctive footprint. So, like I said, I think this one's going to do numbers. Techtic, my guy.
Shadow Labyrinth.
Jimmy's.
So this
Labyrinth.
This was a side scroller. It had awesome vibes, and we have seen this before, specifically in Secret Level. This is like a spin-off of Pac-Man. We've seen a show on this, and so the marketing on this alone just has me sold. It's like a dark twist with Pac-Man, and it's fascinating to me, and it looks like it would just be a fun game to play and have those nice creepy vibes, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. Definitely the most Techtic game that was showcased. If I know your sensibility at all, this is the one that I would have assumed you would have shouted out to start with. It's funny. I did not watch Secret Level. I remember vaguely when this was discussed. I think we discussed it on the show before. But they're going through all this puck stuff, and I'm like, well, wait a second, that's Pac-Man. This has got to be copyright infringement. They're just copying Pac-Man, and at the end it said Bandai Namco, and I was like, okay, well they own Pac-Man, so it's okay. And they're clearly just like doing a thing. Yeah, this looked like a game I would be pretty into. We just talked about Metroid Dread before the break, and not that this is Metroid Dread necessarily, but
it definitely has those
some
vibes.
Commonalities. Yeah. So this is one that I could definitely see myself picking up on the cheap and playing. This one has a specific release date of July 18th. So be on the lookout for that.
And then the other one that I want to mention, sorry.
Yeah.
You're cutting the line.
I want to make sure
so
I get this in.
excited about it.
Yeah, because it's completely not Techtic coded.
I was going to go around again, but
Disney Villains Cursed Cafe.
Oh man, you're snaking it out.
This is not me This is not me coded, but like it very much felt like just a storytelling game and a build your own adventure. And I was kind of here for it because it wasn't just making drinks for like what they're ordering, what the villains are ordering, but also you can make and riff and like maybe fuck with them a little bit. And that's kind of fun.
I did so do you want to know what just happened here? I have my list up on our monitors and I highlighted the games that I liked, that I had like my top 3 highlighted.
Cheated.
He definitely snaked it out from under me. He definitely saw it highlighted.
I did not see it highlighted. I'm looking at my own list.
Okay. But yeah, I think what was cool about this too was that they made sure like what the potions that you put in their coffee orders can change the play of the game and will change the storyline. So everybody who plays can have a different ending. And I think that's super cool. And it's just a different form factor for these Disney characters. And Disney villains, I feel like, are always super compelling. People love them. And I think it's just a really cool, different take on, the Disney genre of game.
So what I wanted from this and what I don't think it is, but I guess they didn't really specify, is like, so they mentioned that serving different ingredients and crafting different drinks, different coffees, all that stuff, will change the play, right? It'll change your game relative to your friend's game, etc. How long is the playthrough? Because like I actually think it would be cool if this was almost like a roguelike kind of thing where like you did a quote unquote run where you served all these folks drinks, they interacted, something happened, and then like there was an outcome, and then you got to go back and try again. And I see that as more pleasant, in particular in this little like all you're doing is making drinks. So it's not, I would think that would get tiresome after like, a couple of hours. I would hope it doesn't take that long, but they didn't really specify. So this one is out right now, so I could go and do this if I wanted to and just find out. But I don't know how much it costs. And this is again, I wouldn't say this is cozy game vibes, but it's not a game that I would sign up for myself. A game that I would sign up for myself, my number one, gotta be Monument Valley. I'm big into puzzle games like this, in particular on the Switch. They play great. I've played a few like this. Most recently, Railbound is one that I think is going to wind up being very similar to this that I really, really enjoyed. Monument Valley and its sequel are coming on April 15th. Monument Valley 3, which is a new one, is coming this summer. I could see myself probably getting the first one and just seeing how it goes, and then very quickly buying the second and the third one, depending on the price point. Games like this on the Switch eShop tend to be pretty on the cheap, or at least will become so very quickly. So this is one that I could really get a lot of mileage out of. So I wanted to shout that one out. Let's do one more round, and we're going to do Snake Fantasy Draft style. So I'm going to pick one more that I quite enjoyed the look of. I think I have to go with one of these rhythm games because there were a couple of them. Rhythm Heaven Groove.
Yeah, dude.
I did watch this direct with my wife, and of all the games, because this was like towards the end of all the games, this was the one that she was like, "Oh yeah."
You know why I
play
think?
the crap out of that.
So this reminded me of like a musically inclined WarioWare, and that's right up your guys' alley.
Definitely.
So like I can see the appeal.
Yeah, 2026, so still quite a ways out, but I thought the trailer here was particularly effective in terms of its cuteness and its memorability and its sense of humor, so definitely wanted to shout that one out. Techtic, you went twice, but I'm going to let you go again out of the kindness of my heart, round out a top 3 of sorts.
So just for the love of arcade gaming, I'm going to mention Marvel Cosmic Invasion. This was a arcade beat 'em up. You can mix and match heroes, and it's coming to the Switch.
And there's co-op.
4-player co-op, swatch characters, good time. I mean, like I said, when we game, like we did Battletoads, and to have just like a beat 'em up in the rotation, it's a good time. Low bar to entry, smashing buttons, can't go wrong.
Yeah, this like genre and form factor of game, I always think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I haven't played those games either, but like I think I probably did in an arcade once, and it was exactly like this. So yeah, it's very old school, but drawing on obviously a very effective IP, and should be great. Nerdbomber, round us out here.
All
Anything
right,
you want to close with?
Yeah, and it's kind of going to be the closing game that they announced during the direct, and I don't know if I'm excited for this or if I'm just confused, but I feel like it's
scary
notable enough.
This game was scary.
Tomodachi life, living the dream. Like, there's me's with weird voices, and then there was the giant me with the super deep voice, and my note to myself was, why so weird? LOL, what's going on? I've never played one of these games. I'm excited to see the return of Mii's because I'm a big Wii fangirl. I love the Wii. We still play the Wii when we go to my parents' house. Big Wii fan, big Mii fan. Love to see them coming back. But like, I have no idea what is happening
This
here.
was cringy. I'm going to be honest.
Like, I'm just confused. I'm very confused. And if someone can like let us know what's happening, like why so creepy? Why so creepy?
Yes. So I cannot let you know what's happening because I was also very confused. This trailer had me from the fart at the beginning. That was great. And then they hit me with the Pennywise sleep paralysis voices for the rest of it. And it quickly lost me. I didn't. Part of what was so strange about this one is that typically with these directs, and I mentioned this before, like towards the end, they kind of do the like, and one more thing where they're like, here's our big reveal for the day. And this was the last one. It's like, this is what you waited for? This is very off-putting. I'm concerned. Was kind of my main vibe throughout this trailer. And again, after all the other life sim games that we saw, I don't want to say it felt like white noise, but it was like the sixth one. So I was like, okay, another life sim game. This is what you're closing with. I just don't know if I agree with that course of action, Nintendo.
I just have so many questions. Like, I don't know this IP, I guess. This is me admitting I have no idea what this IP is outside of Mii's. But most Nintendo properties, you don't actually hear speech. For the most part, you either hear or like in Animal Crossing, it's like the high-pitched noise. Like, you'd never really hear speech. And so this was a choice. It just felt like a choice. Yeah,
well, I believe, and we didn't talk about it, but the Tamagotchi one, very similar game. They were, I think, just saying nonsense. They weren't saying actual words, which, by the way, is a drive-by, but we do not need Tamagotchi video games, right? We don't need that.
No.
The charm of the Tamagotchi is that it's a little thing that has like 3 pixels on it, and you can overfeed it and it dies. That's the whole thing. Let it go. It's over. That was cool enough. That we don't need a whole plaza. I don't think that's part of it. There's a lot of games we didn't mention. We're going to move on now. Let us know in the comments or on Blue Sky or wherever what we should have hit that we didn't hit. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake. We've already seen some stuff about that in previous directs, so I felt suited to blast by that one. Saga Frontier 2 remastered, very similar situation. No sleep for Kaname Date. Very confusing. That was a weird trailer. I don't want to touch that one. That was very odd. Raidu Remastered, The Mystery of the Soulless Army, Patapon and Patapon 2, right in the running there with Rhythm Groove Heaven or whatever it was called for most entertaining looking rhythm game, but that's again a remaster, so I chose the other one. Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar, another life sim game. The Eternal Life of Goldman, basically Up, but a video game, ? Gradius Origins, another arcade rehash. Rift of the Necro Dancer, more rhythm game. And Everybody's Golf Hot Shots. Boy, there was a lot going on in that one too. Looked pretty enjoyable. So yeah, there were other ones.
Golf Hot Shots was backspin, special shots, and mini skirts.
Yeah, a lot of mini skirts going on in that trailer. There was also a bunch that were driven by very quickly, didn't even get their own trailers. Fantasy Life 1, The Girl Who Steals Time, King of Meat, High on Life, Blues Lagoon, Star Overdrive, and The Wandering Village. So again, hit us up on Blue Sky if you want to chat about any of those. We're going to get now, though, into our part of the show that closes the show, which is What Are You Up To Wednesday? This is the part of the show where we talk about what we've been up to. And I'm going to defer this week because once again, I've done basically nothing worth noting. I am going to shout out something, but it's not going to be very exciting. So I'm probably going to go in the middle. So Techtic, we're going to go to you first. Why don't you regale us with the tales of Techtic?
Sure. So as I had mentioned last week, I wanted to play Long Shots, the board game. And now this week, I played Long Shots, the board game, and I had some friends over to play that, and we played Mario Party Jamboree after the fact, and it was just a very good vibe, and I really enjoyed it. Had some pizza, had some little snacks, some cookies. It was a good time. 10 out of 10, recommend inviting friends over for board games. And then the other, it is also worth mentioning that I wanted to invite Illeagle, but I was scared to ask. Couldn't handle rejection. And then the other thing...
I just want to be on record that was unfounded. That was unfounded fear, but go on.
And then the other thing that I've been working on is I made a lot of progress on that typewriter, the e-ink typewriter. I've got it, so a lot of the tutorials are for a 4x2-inch screen. I've got it now working for a 7.5-inch screen. And I'm just there's a lot of little things on the open sourced baseline project that I don't think are great. Like, it's not designed to go back and edit sections. It's the tutorial is designed just to keep writing, and then eventually you can export it to a TXT file where you'll do your editing later on. It's just to encourage like no distractions from anything, let alone even going back and editing. It's just all about forward progress. And I don't care for that. I think you should be able to check back a couple pages and edit a couple pages if you need to for like, let's say you mention your character has blue eyes, and then you're like 7 pages down the road and you're like, shit, what color eyes were they? So like, I'm working on those kind of modifications that are just quality of life for what I want my project to be, but it is coming along nicely and I'm enjoying it.
Very good. Yeah, I continue to be invested in and curious about how that project proceeds, so keep us updated. Yeah, for myself, still playing God of War Ragnarok, having a great time. I think I've put 14 and a half or so hours into it, so not really a spoiler. Nerdbomber, just keep you in the loop. I'm just wrapping up Valheim, or at least I think I'm wrapping up Valheim.
Okay.
So it's going really well. I'm having a good time. The only other thing I want to shout out, I'm still churning through Murderbot Diaries as well. I've finished 3 books and I'm heading into the 4th. I want to shout out libraries because they're arguably under some assault right now, and they're great. I have read all of the Murderbot books, physical books I've gotten from libraries, 2 different libraries that have shipped books back and forth at no expense. So love libraries so much right now. And then the only other thing I want to shout out is actually a musician, which we don't really do on this podcast much, but someone who I discovered in the past week who I've really been enjoying listening to. Her name is Laufey, and she is actually an Icelandic. I think I might come off as a bit of a hipster to some folks here, but she's an Icelandic artist. She actually has, I believe, won a Grammy before, but she is trying, her whole shtick is she is trying to bring classical and like bossa nova sound back into pop music. So I would recommend looking her up. It's pronounced Laufey, but it's like a weird Icelandic pronunciation. So it's actually spelled Laufey. Yeah, feel free to go look her up. She's nice, smooth listening. We'll wrap things up with Nerdbomber.
All right. So 2 big things I want to bring up. The first is we watched The Life List, and this is a movie that just actually came out on Netflix. It's like a rom-com drama, but the general gist of the movie is that this girl's mother dies and leaves basically everything else, like her company that the daughter works for, to her daughter-in-law, and gives basically a bunch of stuff in the will to her siblings. But the only thing that she has really told her daughter is that she has to basically go back and revisit this list that she made at 13 with all of her goals and aspirations. And as she checks things off the list, her mom has left her DVDs and DVD messages. So it's essentially, her trying to, from the grave, shake up her daughter's life and get her out of a rut and say, like, you didn't really want to work for my company, go pursue your own dreams. And I will say, the main love interest guy, that is rom-com material. Like, chef's kiss. That is perfect rom-com material. I think the main couple had really great chemistry. I feel like we talked about, a new rom-com wave coming our way, and I feel like this is part of that wave. It was actually a pretty good movie. It was a little on the long side. It was just a touch over 2 hours. It was like 2 hours and 5 minutes, but there was also a lot of like drama, feelings, stuff wrapped up. It wasn't all just about their romance. So I think it worked. I didn't feel like it super overstayed its welcome at all. I don't know. I enjoyed it. Techtic, did you have any thoughts on that movie?
It was good. Good rom-com. Can't complain.
Yeah. So that's on Netflix now. Like I said, I think it just came out last weekend. And then the other main thing that I wanted to talk about was, so we finished the current season of Mythic Quest that just released on Apple TV, and we started watching Side Quest, which is the like spin-off side series. They're all capsule episodes. So one of the things that Mythic Quest has always done super well, I know we talked about, Apple TV having banger shows. Mythic Quest is one of those that are up there. And I think one of the things that I've always loved about the show is every season there's at least one like capsule episode that has nothing to do really with the main characters of the show. It's just a self-contained, really heartfelt, usually super emotional episode that is just fantastic. And so this season, instead of doing it during the main show, they actually took those capsule episodes and turned it into a 4-episode kind of like sideshow called Side Quest. We've watched 3 out of the 4 of them, and they're fantastic.
Really?
I've been enjoying them.
They're not hitting for me.
Really?
Yeah, the nice thing about the capsule episodes as they were is you had already built a relationship with the character. These are super tertiary characters.
See, I would disagree, though, because there was that entire capsule episode where it had Big Head from Silicon Valley in it, and it was like not even related to modern day Mythic Quest. In one of those, the capsule episode, and it was not current day.
Yeah, that one's not even, I can't even remember that episode. Anyone that, basically, if I don't have a character that I'm not bonded to, it will not resonate with me. And that's why I'm struggling with the side quest, because they haven't imprinted on me yet.
See, I have found, like, the entirety of Mythic Quest is great, but there are some really, really poignant episodes that are the capsule episodes that, like, I feel like I've walked away from, and they have, like, I've thought about them, like, we've moved on and gotten back into, like, the modern day timeline, and I'm still thinking about the capsule episode because it's that emotionally charged. And I feel like that's kind of what we're getting here. And I feel like some of these side quest, one-offs, especially the one about the comic book store, I feel like I could see that turn into its own show. And I get what you're saying, that you want to feel attached to the characters, but I feel like in the span of a half hour, like, short, they're doing a really good job, at least for me, drawing me in and making me care about the characters.
So, like, The Last of Us was able to make me fall in love with capsule episode characters, but that's because it was an hour-long episode. And in the short little 30 minutes that we have at best, I can't get there. I'm trying, but I can't get there.
Interesting. Well, now I feel like we need someone to weigh in on either Blue Sky or Illeagle. We're going to make you, we don't have punishment prizes anymore, but you should probably watch Mythic Quest and then weigh in on whether the capsule episodes are good or not, because I think they're good. Well,
I can weigh in and say that as a narrative element, I tend to like capsule episodes. I think they're also called bottle episodes. I've heard them referred to that way. I tend to like them a lot. They allow you to step back from the larger story and investigate certain character arcs more deeply in what can be a very useful way, I imagine, for the writers and also for the viewers. So without seeing the show itself, I would imagine I would fall on the side of capsule episodes are good. I don't know. I also don't really have a horse in this race. We should reach out to the folks on Blue Ski, see what they think.
I feel like you could probably get away with watching Side Quest because, like I said, it's only very tertiarily connected to Mythic Quest, and you could probably get away with just watching Side Quest and get enough out of it because they're new characters, new situations, etc.
I don't know that I'm going to do that. I'm going to be honest with you. I'd much rather have the context going in based on the main show, regardless of whether the characters are connected or not. The main show is going to supply me the vibe, I think, which I do have some ideations of actually watching that show at some point. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it.
All right.
Don't smoke pipes, kids. It's not good for you. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the episode. Hope you guys all had a great time. The listeners, I don't care if you two had a great time. You guys have to do this. It's a contractual obligation. If you liked what you heard, you can head over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs down. Give us a 1-star. Give us a 5-star. Give us whatever you like. Just, be honest. And we look forward to hearing from you over on Blue Sky or in the reviews. And we hope you come back next week because we had a great time chatting with you. So in the meantime, stay safe and keep on podcasting.